I would like to interrupt my series of videos about John Newton by just giving you this month some news about myself as a writer. Things are happening, new things is just new marching orders, I feel, from the Lord, and I want to just update all of you who are on my newsletter list about what God is doing. So I think all of you know that my books for the last 20, 25 years have had one goal, and that is to showcase the power of God throughout history, to demonstrate that there's been a track record for the sovereignty of God transforming people and cities and nations. So that's kind of my theme. And recently, things have changed in regard to my books, my writing, and the interest in my books. So the series of books about the power of God throughout history began with this book, The Forgotten Awakening, which is about the way God sovereignly reached out to many of the tribes, the First Nations on this continent, before there were even any white people in touch with them. So this was a good demonstration of the power of God and the sovereignty of King Jesus. And then I like to show, well, what happened? If Jesus did this, then what was the fallout? What was the results? And so this book shows, first of all, what God did, and then the intrusion of white people, and then what was the result of the fact that God had revealed Jesus to the tribes already. And then we see how that affected white native relations. It affected everything that happened in our history as a result. So The Forgotten Awakening was really the first of three books, the other two being Glory Through Time, Volume 1 and 2. Well, God has directed me to produce a second edition of this book. This book was an enjoyable project for me as long as it was going on, but it sort of has been neglected and not much happening on that until 2 months ago, when suddenly I got all kinds of interest in this book coming out of nowhere. And so I did not know what to do with that, but the result of that is that God has showed me He's not done with this book, and I need to rewrite it a little bit. I need to construct a new preface, a new postscript, a new epilogue, because new things are happening in the Native arena among Native Americans, and He wants me to reflect that a little bit in this book. In other words, the story that started here is still going on. So now I'm to just convey a little bit in that new postscript with the second edition of this book, some of the things that God is doing now. Because, God has been revealing to me, sort of speaking to me quietly all the time I've been writing this and involved in prayer, that this story is not finished and He is about to do something wonderful among the First Nations. And that was revealed in this book, Peace Warriors, by my friend Allison Musing. And she gives a lot of the things that God is doing right now in her book, Peace Warriors, First Nations of America Arise, a true story of hearts open to the healing power of forgiveness. So the emphasis of this book is about what God is doing to allow Native people to get started over and forgiving the sins of the past, the sins of the church, the sins of white people against them is going to be a big part of that. But that opens the way for a whole new destiny. And this is how Billy Graham described that destiny. He said in 1975, "You as Indians are a sleeping giant. The original Americans, you are now awakening. Just around the corner, you may become a spiritual superpower in this country that could change not only America, but the world." Well, I believe that is a very good description of what God is doing right now. Just in the last 10 or 15, 20 years maximum, it's a recent thing. It's a new thing that we're seeing. So God led me. He asked me to go to a Pine Ridge Indian reservation last summer. Pine Ridge is the reservation of the Oglala tribe of the Lakota Nation, and it's located in southwest South Dakota. And I went there specifically. He said, interview Norma Blacksmith. So this is an intercessor lady, one of the Oglala elders who I didn't realize she was about to pass away. So I just got my interview in prior to that, and I learned about her life, and I'm going to make her life my postscript in this new edition of The Forgotten Awakening. I'm writing that right now. And then I'm going to be republishing this not only as a book, but also in audio format, an audio book. So one person who agrees with me that God is about ready to do a great work among the First Nations is my friend George Otis Jr. So let me just brag on George a little bit. George has spent the last 30 years of his life going around tracking the power of God as that power transforms communities all around the world. George is a true globe trotter if there ever was one. And when he hears that there's something that God is doing that's a clear manifestation of the power of God to transform communities, he will be there and he will film that. And he's been doing this for many years. So George happened to stay here on our property in our guest house, and during that time he happened to get a hold of this book, and he started reading it, and he said he couldn't put it down because it kept him awake. And so the result of that was that George interviewed me, and we had a great time. We formed I think, a lasting friendship. And he's also invited me to speak at his next conference in Seattle on November 16 and 17. Any of you who are in the area at that time, I'll try to get you that information. But George believes with all his heart that God is about to do this thing that Billy Graham described, and he's seen it happen in his first video, his first tracking of this is a video that he's just putting out now called The Gates of White Clay. It's about a tavern town, a sin city, a den of iniquity that has been pouring alcohol into the Oglala people for over a century. And by the power of God and the prayers of Norma Blacksmith and others, this town has been transformed. So I want to just encourage you to look out for that, The Gates of White Clay. Look into the new channel that George is opening up. There's going to be all kinds of podcasts and blogs and all kinds of stuff coming out of there to showcase what God is doing among Native people, and probably a lot of other material there, but all the same theme. It's God has the power to transform people and cities and nations. And that's pretty much what I write about. So George and I have been traveling parallel paths, and I'm just so excited about what he's doing, and he's excited about what I'm doing, and so we're walking together more and more. So let me just close by just saying, if you're in the Seattle area, November 16 to 17, I'd love to see you. But in addition to that, I'm building my own new website. So just the same as George is doing a new channel, I'm doing a new website. It's going to be douglasmcmurray.com, and it's going to be all just about these three books, at least at the beginning: Glory Through Time, Volume 1 and 2, and then The Forgotten Awakening. And I'm going to be introducing those books on that website, and hopefully allowing myself to get a little publicity so that people will be inviting me to speak in different places. That's one goal that I have. If you would like me to come and speak somewhere in your locale, let me know.